in theaters now from Universal, from the makers of Happy Death Day 1 and 2 and Freaky, movies that I really quite enjoyed despite not thinking I would, comes Drop. Not to be confused with Drop Zone. This is a new film that is about a date gone very, very wrong. The basic premise, not going to tell you the whole story. The basic premise, if you've seen the trailers, you've already seen too much. The basic premise is, I'm sorry, I just ran up 4 floors to do this because I'm just breathlessly excited to tell you about Drop. The basic premise is single mother goes on a date with a guy she met on one of them swiping left or right apps. Seems to be a very handsome, very nice guy. The date goes great. Suddenly she starts getting these drops. This is a movie based on current technology, so it's going to date really poorly. She starts getting these drops on her phone where somebody nearby, if you don't know what a drop is, I think probably half the audience who's over a certain age, while they watch this film, they learn what a drop is. Well, she's looking at her phone, something goes ding, and it pops up, and somebody from nearby who isn't connected to you, you may not know, wants to send you something, wants to communicate with you, and they send you a picture. So she starts getting these little memes. She starts getting these little memes that are cute or weird and kind of, why aren't you talking to me? And they start getting more aggressive and more sinister. She's not telling her date about this. She does tell her date about this. Then things start getting really sinister where somebody is showing her the video surveillance footage from her home, knowing that this person basically can control everything, can control her phone, sees everything she does on her phone. There is an assailant in her home who is holding her babysitter/sister and young son captive, and she needs to do whatever they say in order for nothing to happen to her family and loved ones. And I'm not going to tell you any more than that. So at its core, it is a date movie. It is a thriller. I would say it's a Hitchcockian thriller, but it's really much more of a Brian De Palmian thriller, which is to say it is Hitchcockian, but like a copy of a Hitchcockian or a copy of a copy. And it does very interesting things visually. Sometimes they're slick and cool. Sometimes they're a little silly, where all the words that the bad guy or girl is typing on the screen to our heroine show up as this weird, like, angled text on screen. And sometimes very interesting visually sometimes, where she goes into a bathroom stall. Not that kind of visually interesting. She goes into a bathroom stall to look at her phone in privacy to try to figure out what's going on. And all the walls of the stall turn into screens and things like that. So visually, it's very interesting. It holds interest. It moves right along. It keeps you guessing, because really with technology and the way movies are written like this go, it really could be anybody who is behind this. And ultimately the question is, who is doing this? How can she get out of this predicament? And why are they doing this to her in particular? All of those questions are answered. The question that isn't quite answered is how the villain of this, it's one of those movies where if you don't pay attention, you don't think about it, it goes along great. But if you do think about it, you're like, this person has to be a master of space and time to be able to control every little aspect of everything and have cameras and listening devices everywhere this character might go, and have, props placed in all these places this character might go, and to have been able to orchestrate all of the stuff that's going on outside the home in addition to what's going on, inside the home in addition to what's going on in this little restaurant. The film predominantly takes place in a really interestingly designed restaurant atop a high rise in Chicago that overlooks the city. And it's very interestingly, I like movies like that. Movies that are about a small number of characters in a very confined space. They almost could be a play in a way. And eventually the film does break out of that. And we'll get to that in a minute. It starts not at that restaurant, but really most of it does take place there. And it's one of those things where this bad person would have to have so many operatives and be so well connected to make all this work and have all this control. It's a little ridiculous. But for the most part, I wasn't really thinking about that while I was watching the movie. The movie, I was fine with it. I had seen the trailer. The initial trailer was, okay, that looks interesting. The second trailer showed you something that made me think, oh, this movie might be kind of stupid, and really showed you more than you need to know. Every trailer is too long. All the trailer really need to do is set up the premise of, hey, this is a date. He's a great guy. She's a hep gal. And oh no, something sinister is going to happen. How do we get out of this? But like every trailer, it shows you way too much. That thing that showed me that I thought this movie might be stupid. So the movie goes along. You do find out who the villain is and their machinations and everything. And then the movie gets stupid. One of the producers of this film is Michael Bay. I'm not a fan of Michael Bay. I know he's made wildly popular films that a lot of people love. I think Michael Bay movies are just totally ham-fisted, overblown, stupid garbage for the most part. And this film didn't have any of that until one point. The villain could have been vanquished at a certain point in the film, and the movie could have ended in a certain way that I won't get into because I don't want to spoil it for you. But it could have been kind of low key, and oh, that was kind of a fun little thriller. Instead, the movie gets way over the top. It becomes a Michael Bay action movie for like the last 10 minutes of the movie, and it gets stupid. It gets people doing superhuman things, people getting shot and stabbed and still carrying on like nothing's wrong, somebody getting heavily brutalized and shot, and then a scene later like winking and making cracking a joke before they've sought medical attention. Car chase, exploding windows, exploding aspects of a house. It got really stupid, and it kind of made me angry. Like, I wasn't loving it up to that point. I thought it was fine. It was good. Good date movie. It probably still is a good date movie, and a lot of people probably will not have the issues I have with it. But when it got to that point, I suddenly didn't care anymore. I'm like, well, this is just stupid now. Like, there's no sense of subtlety or anything. It's just ridiculous. It's the kind of thing that I hate in movies where somebody is something blows up and your hero falls back in slow motion and something goes right past their nose, and I'm just like, yeah, that's stupid. I don't want to see that. So I totally tuned out when the film got stupid at the end. I didn't care anymore when the film got stupid at the end. You could take this film seriously, and I think a lot of people will, from the maker of the Happy Death Day films, which were great, and Freaky, which was surprisingly really fun. So there is a light tone to it, and I think this is the kind of movie that some more cynical people are probably going to watch and view as a comedy, even when it's not supposed to be. But it does have intentional light moments, and overall, it is a fun movie. It just, for me, got really stupid and sort of rolled back any goodwill that I had for it. And then that's when I started thinking about, well, how did the bad guy do this, or the bad gal? I'm not going to give away the gender because it really could go either way. How did the villain do that? How is it possible that in this amount of time, blah, blah? I started overthinking about it, which you don't want to do. I started writing a better movie than I got. So at any rate, in theaters now from Universal is Drop.